Hello, my name is Johnny Steins, and today I'll be giving you a quick overview of how I achieved some of the visuals in the level that I built called Fenrar's Hold. This is a Chivalry Medieval Warfare multiplayer level that I designed for the Steam community. It supports 16 to 32 players, and it's designed for team deathmatch and free-for-all. So during this build I used a lot of modular level design. This allowed me to not have to create a bunch of custom meshes and create a bunch of custom UV maps or texture maps for those meshes. That can take a long time, so it is quicker just to use smaller meshes that are provided in the content browser to create an overall structure, piece by piece, placing them piece by piece to create an overall structure. So as you can see here, these are all individually placed smaller meshes to make a large mesh, or large looking mesh. This allows me to create a very custom look and at the same time not have to spend a long time modeling it. So a lot of what I did here, this whole house is basically piece by piece. So something like this, the wall, you take that side and this side and just copy them, rotate it 180 degrees, and drag it back. And now you have a matching interior wall for your back wall. So this was done throughout the level. Just finding pieces that I liked in the content browser that matched the theme. If they didn't match, I'd use custom materials. I'll get to that later. But yeah, just piecing everything one by one to create an overall structure. So as you can see, this house is pieced together. This section over here is a good example. So this might take a long time if you're individually placing every single one of these, but if you just grab one small mesh, one post mesh, scale it up to your certain sizes, so this and this match, that's copied over there, and then you scale it up this way, turn it 90 degrees, get some taller ones going. Now you've got this structure here, or this component, and you can copy that, place it throughout, and that is sliding for some reason, but you get the idea. That's how I created that section. This section I wanted to make an interesting combat scenario where players could run through all of these posts or studs, and that should be there. Run through all these studs and use them to block opponents' attacks and such. It's also a good place for players to spawn since it's outside of the center of the map where most of the action takes place. This castle right here, this mesh in particular, I really liked as a wall. So this is where I started the base of the fort with this mesh right here, and I liked the way that this has 3 doors and a little tunnel system that players can run through with all these posts. It makes for interesting combat scenarios. Players can hide behind this, juke each other out. But I did not like the aesthetics of this destroyed look. I wanted a more clean-looking fort that doesn't look like it's been through battle. So, in order to achieve that, I just placed meshes over top of the ugly sections. Which are hard to see right now because there's a lot of meshes placed. But yeah, as you can see, so did the same thing over here. Well, I couldn't scale this wall in the y-axis very much, because if I did, then it stretches these doorways out, and I wanted to keep those to that particular size. So instead of doing that, I just matched the angle of this wall with my own meshes and place them piece by piece. So each one of these meshes has a different angle that it's meeting on this wall. And yeah, and then I took that piece and just flipped it around, okay, 180 degrees. And then, okay, that didn't work very well, but you get the idea. I'm in local, that's why. If you change it to world right here, then you can copy things neatly depending on their angle. So then, yeah, I would just take that, drag it on down the line here, and there. I'll also do the same thing for this wall, throughout this wall. So something like that. And that would allow me to match this wall and create this entire piece as well. For sections where I want a doorway, though, I'd have to fill that in with meshes. And I was trying to avoid seams here, an obvious seam, so I'd overlap that. Also, stuff like this. This turret right here doesn't have a doorway into it, if you get a look at it here. So there's no doorways here. So I had to fake the appearance, or give the appearance of a doorway from these ramparts, from this rampart, leading into there so that you can get to the next rampart up here. And I wanted to close these ramparts off, these ones, because I didn't want players going up here and just abusing their long-range attacks on anyone trying to get into the castle. So I only wanted to open up one rampart and have that as a basically a strong point that people fight over. Again, more modular, level design, copy, paste kind of stuff to create this entire section right here. All individual pieces. Yeah, okay. Now, the materials. If you're doing a modular level design like this, it's important to match the materials of the meshes you want to match. So say like this, I'm trying to match this material. In order to do that, I had to create a material that didn't scale the texture, basically didn't stretch the texture when I scaled the object. Otherwise I'd have to create a bunch of materials just for every single static mesh that I place, and that would just be a waste of time. I might as well create a custom mesh. So I just created a custom material that allowed me to basically planar map these things so it's a uniform scale. So no matter what size I make this to, the texture stays the same size. So that was a trick that I used in here. Might do a tutorial on that later, but you get the idea. So now, and then also if you rotate it, no matter how you rotate it, it stays, the texture stays the same angle, same scale and all that. So yeah. Then you combine that with throwing on some static decals, such as these vines, which I made my own decal here, in my own custom vine decal to give it a little bit of character. And also these decals here that give like a kind of beat up look. Otherwise it looks very clean and unscathed. So yeah, a lot of custom materials throughout this level. All the roofs are blue to match the Agatha kind of theme here, the Agatha lions, or whatever you call them. So made a lot of blue materials for rooftops and everything to match the theme here. And custom materials for the river that pan the river texture. Custom material for this custom mesh that I made here. I can select it. Now I'm just selecting the particle. So yeah, custom mesh here. The content browser in Chivalry didn't have a very good waterfall mesh, so I had to model that myself to fit the theme and the contour of this area right here. And then I created a custom material that scrolls a water texture, a moving water texture, a few textures actually, stacked on top of each other. Scroll those so that they give the appearance of moving water, falling, and rotated those textures onto that mesh, as so, and then did that similar thing with the river, which, yeah, and then, let's have a cave here. Another custom mesh that I had to create was the cave mesh, just to give the basic shape of the cave and some detail. So went into Maya, created a cave, and placed it here with some smaller detail, and then I took big rocks like this, you know, to give it larger protrusions, I guess you call them. Larger objects pointing out so it looks more natural. Put a fog actor in here as well so that gives a more atmospheric look from these the smoke coming off of those torches. Let's see. Another custom mesh that I created were these trees, which I cannot select because they're foliage actors, but if you go over top of them you can see that they're really just 6 planes with custom materials that I put on them, put together to make a tree, basic looking tree, and from afar it looks alright. Up close not so much, but that's why I placed most of those afar. And then I used a Chivalry pine tree that has a lot more polys to put closer to the player, so that if they're going to look at trees close up, it doesn't look so ugly. This will save my memory, or save the player's memory, so they can actually play the level. And finally, this backdrop. It's nice to have a scene outside of your environment so that it looks like your world actually extends farther than where the player can go. So here I just created a mess, really, but from afar it looks like a castle. You know, from this angle it looks like there's stuff going on in there. Also use custom materials to give it a nice, like, elegant look. And yeah, that is pretty much it. You know, it's a lot of copy paste work. You know, just putting one thing into, or positioning one thing correctly, and then just copying and pasting. You know, moving it over, and then you take that entire section here. I mean, I should really just be doing a tutorial for this at some point, but just to give you an idea of how I created these things. Yeah. If you are interested in some of the techniques I use to create these effects, leave a comment on this video and maybe I'll start making some tutorials. Alright, well, thank you for watching and have a good day.